My girlfriend, Emma, took a break to travel through Asia with her college friends, so I cancelled the wedding. All right, here goes nothing. So, me and Emma had been together for about 5 years, engaged for almost 3. Things were going all right, or at least I thought they were. We had a wedding date set, everything was booked, and I was under the impression we were on the same page. Guess I was wrong about that. See, about 6 weeks ago, she tells me she's going on this trip to Asia with her old college friends. It was like a trip of a lifetime, or whatever she called it. I was fine with it. I mean, it wasn't like I was going to stop her from going on a trip with her friends, right? In fact, I even drove her to the airport, helped her with her bags, gave her a kiss goodbye, and wished her a fun time. That's when she hit me with it, the whole "we need to take a break" thing. Now, it wasn't like she said, "Let's sit down and talk about things." Nope, she just drops it on me as we're walking to the security line like it's no big deal. I remember thinking, what the hell do you mean, a break? But before I could even respond or ask questions, she was off in the line waving goodbye. And that was it. I didn't even process it fully at first. I got back in the car and drove home, thinking it was maybe some weird comment she made, because she was nervous about the trip. But then I started calling her, just to check in, and guess what? Blocked. Like straight up blocked on everything. I couldn't call her, text her, or anything. I checked social media to see if maybe she posted something or gave an update on her trip, blocked there too. That's when it started to sink in, that this whole break thing wasn't some casual comment. She meant it. She really just left for Asia and decided to cut me off without even talking about it. I tried to give it a few days. Maybe she'd calm down. Maybe she'd realize she was being ridiculous. But after 5 days of complete silence, I was done. I made up my mind right then and there. The wedding was off. And you know what? I felt good about that decision. Why should I be with someone who thinks they can just walk away whenever they feel like it? I wasn't going to sit around and wait for her to decide when she was ready to be in a relationship again. Hell no. She made her choice. So I made mine. I cancelled everything: the venue, the catering, the flowers, whatever we had planned for the wedding. I pulled the plug. And then I took it one step further and decided she wasn't moving in with me either, which was supposed to happen in March. Nope. She could figure out her living situation when she got back from her little vacation, because it wasn't going to be with me. Weeks went by and I didn't hear a word from her, not a single message, not a call, nothing. Then one day, out of nowhere, she calls me. I didn't even know it was her at first because she must have used a different number or something. She says she's getting back on Thursday morning, gives me her flight details like I'm supposed to care, and acts like everything is just fine, like she didn't ghost me for 6 weeks. I paused for a second and then said, "What's that got to do with me?" And man, the silence on the other end of the phone was golden. She didn't know how to respond. I didn't give her a chance to explain either. I blocked her just like she did to me. And that was the end of it, or at least I thought it was. Later that day, I figured it was time to let people know what was up, especially since the wedding was off and all. We had a group chat with some of our friends and family, so I just posted a quick message saying, "Hey, just letting everyone know the wedding is cancelled, and so is our relationship." I didn't think it would blow up like it did, but man, people had questions. Everyone started asking what happened. So I laid it out for them. I told them how Emma went off to Asia, decided we needed a break without even asking me, and then blocked me for 6 weeks. They were all pretty shocked. Some people were even mad on my behalf, which honestly felt kind of nice. You never really know how people will react when you drop news like that. But it was good to have some support. Around 2 p.m, Emma finally decided to chime in. She didn't say much at first. Just asked me to call her so we could talk about everything. I wasn't having it. I told her we could talk right there in the group chat if she wanted to explain herself. She didn't like that, though. Said something like, "This is between us, not for everyone else." Yeah, no. She made this public the second she walked out of my life without a word. She tried messaging me a few more times, but I just kept it short. I wasn't in the mood to listen to her excuses. By 6 p.m., she was begging me to pick her up from the airport so we could talk this out. Like seriously, as if nothing had happened. I told her straight up, that was your plan, not mine. None of this was my plan, and I meant it. I wasn't going to go running to the airport like some fool after everything she pulled. To be honest, part of me was still waiting for her to drop some kind of explanation that would make it all make sense. I guess I wanted to believe there was a reason, something that would justify why she treated me like this. But as the hours went by, I realized there wasn't going to be a reason. She wasn't going to come back with some grand apology or tell me there was some misunderstanding. She made her choice, and I had to live with that. So the next few days, I focused on getting my life back on track. I wasn't about to let this ruin me. I started going through our shared accounts, making sure everything was split up. And yeah, I changed the locks on my apartment. Last thing I needed was her showing up unannounced, thinking she could just waltz back into my life. I was done with that. I even started looking at some trips of my own. I figured if she could run off to Asia for 6 weeks, maybe I should take some time for myself too. I deserved it after all the crap she put me through. Anyway, that's where things stand right now. She'll be back in a couple of days, but I'm not going to be there waiting. She can figure out her own way home. As far as I'm concerned, this chapter of my life is over, and I'm moving on to better things. Alright, so let me tell you what happened next, because things got wild pretty quick. After I made my peace with the fact that the wedding was off, I figured it was just a matter of time before Emma tried to reach out again. I was ready for it, but what I didn't expect was how fast she'd try to play the victim card. It all started when I got this message from one of our mutual friends, Chloe. Now, Chloe's cool. She's always been straight with me, but this time, she was a bit hesitant, like she didn't really want to get involved. But she sends me a screenshot from another group chat, one that I wasn't in. Obviously, it was Emma talking to some of her friends, trying to paint this whole thing was the one who overreacted. Can you believe that? In the chat, she's telling them how stressed she was about the wedding and how she needed space to clear her head. She even said something like, I didn't mean for the break to last that long, but I thought he would understand. And then there was this gem. I just needed to figure out if I was ready for marriage, but he cancelled everything before I could talk to him. I almost laughed when I read that. Like, she blocked me on everything for 6 weeks, then acts like I'm the one who didn't give her a chance to talk. That's not how this works. I felt my blood boiling just reading the messages. She was playing the whole poor me card, telling everyone that I was being irrational and rushed into cancelling the wedding. At this point, I knew I couldn't just let her keep running her mouth, making me look like the bad guy. So I decided to address it head on. I wasn't going to let her rewrite history. I jumped into the main group chat, where all our close friends and family were still buzzing from the wedding cancellation news. Everyone was trying to figure out what the hell was going on, and I figured it was time to clear the air. I posted a message that said, look, I just want everyone to know the truth here. Emma decided we were taking a break without talking to me, blocked me for 6 weeks, and now she's acting like this is some kind of miscommunication. I cancelled the wedding because I wasn't going to sit around waiting for someone who didn't respect me enough to even have a conversation. You can't just drop a break on someone and disappear for weeks, then expect everything to be fine when you come back. That's not how relationships work. Honestly, I was relieved someone else said it because I was getting tired of defending myself at this point. Now, here's where things got interesting. Emily's friend Jessica, who I always suspected was kind of shady, decided to back Emily up. Jessica starts saying how Emily's been through a lot and how wedding pressure can really mess with your head. She was even in the relationship, trying to tell me how to handle it. So I replied, Jessica, with all due respect, you don't know the half of it. This isn't about wedding stress. It's about the fact that Emily blocked me, cut me off completely, and didn't bother to talk to me once during the whole trip. I called, texted, and got nothing. How much more time was I supposed to give her? Another 6 weeks, a year. If Emily didn't want to be with me, she could have said that, but instead She disappeared and expected everything to be fine. Then Jessica jumped straight into why I cancelled the wedding without talking to Emily first. I was stunned. I didn't expect Rachel to take Emily's side, especially after everything I told her. Rachel, your sister blocked me. How was I supposed to talk to her when she literally cut me off? Rachel didn't really have an answer to that, but she kept pushing, saying Emily was heartbroken and that I should have waited for her to come back and talk things through. At that point, I had enough. I told Rachel straight up, look, I'm done with this. Later, I spoke to Emma. This time, she was apologizing, well, sort of. She said she was sorry for how things went down, but didn't take any responsibility for the choices she made. It was one of those half apologies, where she tried to make it sound like we were both at fault. I didn't reply. There was no point. She'd made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. I wasn't going to go back and forth with her anymore. After that, I made sure to block her everywhere again, just to avoid any more drama. I thought things would quiet down for a bit, but nope, not in my life. It turns out I had way more coming my way than I could have expected. About a week after I blocked Emma for the last time, I got this random call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer it, because at this point, I wasn't in the mood for more drama. But for some reason, I picked up. And guess who it was? Emma's mom. Yeah, her mom. Like, what the hell? Now I had to play games, so I kept it short. I'm fine. Chloe, what's going on? That's when she starts with the whole guilt trip. She says, oh, we were so looking forward to the wedding, and this whole thing has really devastated Emma. You know she's been crying every day since she got back, right? She's just been a mess. Now, I wasn't about to let her make me feel bad for Emma, not after everything she pulled. So I told her straight up, Chloe, I'm sorry Emma's upset, but she made her choices. Emma was having doubts. She should have talked to me, not shut me out. But Chloe wasn't finished yet, not at all. She kept pressing, saying, I know this looks bad, but think about all the years you've spent together. You've had such a great relationship. Don't you want to try and save it? I'm sure once Emma explains everything, you'll understand. At this point, my frustration was growing. It felt like Chloe wasn't even hearing me. I was left speechless as she casually invited me to their family dinner, as if this were just a minor disagreement that could be resolved over a plate of spaghetti. Realizing this conversation was going nowhere, I told her, thanks for the offer, but I think it's best if we all just move on. And then I hung up. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Wrong. The very next day, I received a message from Emma's dad. Now, let me tell you, her dad Jerry is one of those old school types who always believes he's right. He's never really been someone who takes my feelings into account. I chose not to respond to his message, knowing it would only lead to a pointless argument, and honestly, I was just done with it all. But that wasn't the worst of it. A few days later, I received a message from Emma. She reached out using a different number, and it was an extensive message several paragraphs long. In it, she expressed her regret for everything that had happened, insisted she never intended to hurt me, and admitted that she realized she'd made a mistake. She mentioned feeling confused about the wedding, and while part of me was still furious, no, honestly, most of me was still furious, there was a small part that felt a tinge of sadness. After all, we had spent years together, and this was how it all came to an end. It was far from the way I envisioned things playing out. The more I reflected on it, the clearer it became that I couldn't just forgive her. Emma had shattered that trust, and no amount of apologies or justifications could alter that. You'd think that after I blocked Emma and her family again, things would finally quiet down, right? Wrong. That would be too simple. It felt like they couldn't, except that the wedding was called off and continued to bombard me. They kept coming at me from every angle, as if they were trying to wear me down or something. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. A couple of days after Emma's last attempt to reach out, I received a text from someone else. This time, it was from Jane. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, telling myself to take it one day at a time, and then she dropped the line, I think you should hear Emma out. Here we go again. I stared at my phone for a minute, unsure if I should even respond. Part of me wanted to block Jane too, and just move on, but my curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to see where this conversation was headed, so I asked her why she felt that way. She insisted that Emma was upset and didn't intend to hurt me. But the more Jane spoke, the clearer it became. Emma had sent her to do her dirty work, hoping I might be more receptive to someone else. It felt like Emma didn't even have the courage to face me directly anymore. I was done with this. I told Jane, "I appreciate your concern, but this isn't something that can be resolved with a few apologies. It's over, plain and simple." I could see that she wanted to keep arguing, but I cut her off before she could continue. I blocked her immediately. Later that week, Jack reached out to me, asking to meet for coffee. When I arrived at the cafe, he was already there, looking somewhat uneasy. We settled in, and after some awkward small talk, he finally got to the heart of the matter. "Look, man, I know things with Emma have been a mess. I just wanted to check in and see if there's any chance you two could work it out." I nearly laughed at the suggestion. "Jack, it's over. There's nothing left to resolve. She made her choices, and I've made mine." He shifted in his seat, looking uncomfortable, as if he didn't know how to respond. It was clear Jack was about to say something I wasn't really in the mood to hear. "Yeah, but what if she's serious about fixing things? She's been talking about wanting to make it up to you." I shook my head. "Jack, I appreciate you coming here and trying to help, but it's not going to happen. If Emma wants to move on, that's fine, but I'm not interested in picking up where we left off." We sat there in uncomfortable silence for a moment, both of us sensing that this conversation was going nowhere. Eventually, Jack shrugged and said he understood. So, when I saw Emma's aunt's name pop up on my phone, I knew something was seriously wrong. She started by mentioning that she heard about the breakup and wanted to check in on me. At this point, I was done, so I cut to the chase and asked her, "Did Emma send you?" Her response, "Well, not exactly, but she's really been struggling, and I thought I could help mediate things between you two." I nearly threw my phone across the room. That was it. No more conversations, no more explanations, no more letting anyone drag me back into that toxic mess. I was done for real this time. After that, things finally quieted down. No more texts, no more calls, and no more random family members popping up in my inbox, trying to guilt me into taking Emma back. It felt good, like I could finally breathe again without the burden of her drama hanging over me. For the first time in a long while, I truly felt free. It was then that I realized just how far Emma would go to try to win me back, or, at the very least, get her way. About a month after everything went down, I received a letter in the mail. Yes, a physical letter, as if we were living in the 1900s. I almost didn't open it because, honestly, who sends letters anymore? But the handwriting looked familiar, so I figured, why not? Maybe it was Emma's final attempt to reach out. Though I wasn't expecting anything too intense, I was wrong. When I opened it, my heart sank. I had changed the locks once this whole ordeal began, but I hadn't considered that Emma might still think she had access to my place. I jumped up to check the locks again, my mind racing with what to do next. But the letter wasn't just an apology. It outlined a plan for how we could start fresh. She talked about discussing couples counseling with her mom and suggested that, if we could just meet up, it would help. The audacity. She didn't ask if I was interested or even checking with me. She just assumed I'd go along with it. I was furious. After everything, she still didn't understand. She was trying to control the situation and manipulate me into complying. It was as if she believed that if she just mapped everything out, I'd eventually give in. So, I decided to respond. If she wanted to play this old-fashioned letter game, I'd oblige. My reply was much shorter. I didn't engage in a debate or suggest counseling. I simply stated that I understood her perspective but still believed we should not pursue anything further. Then she wrote something that genuinely unsettled me. She mentioned driving by my apartment a few times and seeing that I wasn't home. She didn't explain why she was driving by or what her intentions were, but the fact that she was monitoring my movements sent chills down my spine. At that moment, I realized it was time to be done for good. While chatting with a friend, I found out that Emma had gone to my mom's house, trying to persuade her to convince me to take her back. I was livid. Not only was Emma overstepping her boundaries with me, but she was also dragging my family into this mess, attempting to manipulate them for her gain. Thankfully, my mom saw right through it. She told Emma that I had already made my decision and that she needed to respect it. Emma apparently became emotional and started crying, but I knew my mom was doing the right thing. Reflecting on everything that had happened, I learned a lot about myself. I discovered that it's perfectly acceptable to stand firm in your boundaries, even when others resist. I understood that you don't owe anyone unlimited chances, especially after they've betrayed your trust. Most importantly, I learned that moving on isn't just about leaving. It's about safeguarding your peace and securing your future. And that's how I finally took control of my life.